The Temporal Nexus Academy floated in the void between dimensions, a crystalline structure that housed the galaxy's most promising young minds. Here, species from across 17 sectors came to study advanced physics, xenobiology, and interdimensional warfare tactics. Among the chattering masses of scaled Vexari, towering Crometh warriors, and the perpetually glowing Lumineth scholars, Orla sat alone in the corner of the quantum mechanics laboratory, her plain brown hair falling across her face as she scribbled calculations in her notebook. "Did you see the human girl again?" Cathara, a Vexari student with iridescent purple scales, whispered to her companion. "She's always alone, never speaks unless called upon. Strange creature." "Humans are weak," Graltok, a young Crometh standing nearly 8 feet tall, rumbled with disdain. "Fragile bones, slow reflexes, no natural weapons. I don't understand why the Academy even accepts them." They weren't wrong about the statistics. Humans were relative newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 70 years prior. Compared to species that had evolved on high-gravity worlds or in the radiation-soaked systems near pulsar stars, humans seemed almost delicate. Orla knew what they said about her kind. She'd heard it all before. She continued her work, calculating the decay rate of exotic matter in controlled singularities, ignoring the whispers that followed her wherever she went. Daniel Martinez, the only other human at the Academy, slid into the seat beside her. Unlike Orla, Daniel was social, charismatic, popular even among the alien students. His dark eyes sparkled with constant amusement, and his easy smile had won him friends across species boundaries. "You know," he said quietly, "you could actually talk to them. They're not all bad." Orla didn't look up from her calculations. "I'm not here to make friends." "No," Daniel agreed, leaning back in his chair. "You're here because the Galactic Defense Corps specifically requested your presence. Because 3 months ago, you single-handedly cleared a void Reaver nest on Kepler 442b that had killed 47 elite soldiers from 6 different species." Now Orla's pen stopped moving. Her gray eyes, previously hidden behind her hair, fixed on Daniel with an intensity that made him shift uncomfortably. "You shouldn't know about that." "I have clearance," Daniel said. "Junior tactical analyst, remember, I saw the mission reports, the recordings." He paused. "Orla, why are you pretending to be just another student?" She returned to her notebook. "Because that's what I was instructed to do. Blend in, learn, observe." Before Daniel could respond, the Academy's emergency alarm shrieked to life. The crystalline walls pulsed with red energy, and Professor Zelnoth's voice echoed through every corridor. "All students to the emergency shelters immediately. We are under attack by Void Reavers. I repeat, Void Reavers have breached the dimensional barriers." Panic erupted instantly. Students scrambled for the exits, their various forms of movement creating chaos. Some ran, others teleported, a few took flight. The Void Reavers were the galaxy's nightmare, extra-dimensional predators that existed partially in normal space and partially in the quantum foam itself. They were nearly impossible to track, could phase through conventional matter, and their touch drained the life force from any organic being. A pack of 3 materialized in the laboratory, their forms shifting and writhing, barely solid. They resembled enormous mantises made of living shadow, with mandibles that dripped with reality-distorting venom. Students screamed as the creatures advanced. Graltok, the Crometh warrior who had mocked humans earlier, roared and charged at the nearest Reaver, his genetically enhanced muscles propelling him forward with devastating force. His fist passed harmlessly through the creature's phasing body. The Reaver's claw swept across his chest, and Graltok collapsed, his life force visibly draining away as frost spread across his scales. Cathara tried to teleport but found her quantum signature disrupted by the Reaver's presence. She was trapped. Orla stood slowly, her notebook falling forgotten to the floor. Daniel noticed immediately that her entire demeanor had changed. The quiet, withdrawn student was gone. In her place stood something that made his tactical analyst instincts scream warnings. "Daniel," she said calmly, "get everyone to the shelter. You have 45 seconds. "Orla, what are you?" "Go." The command in her voice sent Daniel scrambling to organize the evacuation. As he herded terrified students toward the exit, he couldn't help but look back. Orla reached into her jacket, which Daniel now realized was not a jacket at all, but some kind of adaptive armor system disguised to look like normal clothing. She pulled out what appeared to be two simple metal rods, each about a foot long. With a flick of her wrists, they extended and reconfigured into weapons unlike anything taught in the Academy's courses. They were phase blades, Daniel realized with shock. Weapons that existed simultaneously in multiple quantum states, allowing them to strike beings that were only partially anchored to conventional reality. Weapons that required neural interfaces so sophisticated that most species couldn't even comprehend their operation, let alone use them effectively. Weapons that were illegal in 70% of the galaxy due to their lethality. The first Void Reaver lunged at Orla with impossible speed, its claws extended. She didn't dodge. Instead, she stepped into the attack, her body twisting with fluid precision that seemed to violate momentum conservation. The Reaver's claw passed through empty space as Orla's phase blade carved upward, slicing through the creature's partially phased carapace. The Reaver shrieked, a sound that existed in frequencies that made reality itself vibrate and dissolved into quantum particles. The other two Reavers hesitated, their alien intelligence recognizing a threat. Orla didn't give them time to adapt. She moved like water flowing through cracks in stone, each motion economical and devastatingly effective. Her blades sang through the air, cutting through dimensions themselves. The second Reaver attempted to phase completely out of normal space, but Orla had anticipated this. She activated something on her wrist. Daniel caught a glimpse of technology that seemed impossibly advanced, and a pulse of energy locked the Reaver's quantum state, forcing it to become fully corporeal. Her blade found its core an instant later. The third Reaver was smarter. It opened a dimensional rift trying to escape, but Orla was faster. She threw one of her phase blades with pinpoint accuracy, and the weapon spun through the air, somehow tracking the creature through its attempted dimensional shift. The blade struck true, and the Reaver's dying scream echoed across multiple realities before it vanished. Silence fell over the laboratory. Orla stood in the center of the room, breathing slowly and evenly, as if she just finished a light jog rather than killed three of the galaxy's most feared predators in under 30 seconds. Daniel stared, his mouth open. Around him, the students who hadn't quite made it to the shelter yet were equally stunned. Professor Zelnoth materialized in the doorway, his energy form flickering with what Daniel recognized as deep concern. "Miss Orla," the professor said carefully, "I believe we need to have a conversation about your extracurricular activities." Orla calmly retrieved her phase blades, which collapsed back into innocent-looking metal rods. "With respect, Professor, I think the Galactic Defense Corps would prefer I continue my cover as a normal student." "Cover?" Kathara whispered, her scales having turned pale with shock. "What are you?" For the first time since Daniel had known her, Orla smiled. It was not a warm expression. "I'm human," she said simply. "My species didn't evolve with scales or natural weapons or the ability to breathe methane. We evolved on a death world where everything, the weather, the predators, the diseases, even the plants, tried to kill us every single day. We learned to hunt things that were bigger, stronger, and faster than us. We learned to track, to plan, to adapt, and to never, ever give up." She looked around at the assembled students, representing dozens of species from across the galaxy. "You want to know why humans are admitted to the Temporal Nexus Academy despite our physical weakness? Because while you were all evolving on worlds that made you strong in one dimension, humans were learning to be strong in every dimension that matters. We became persistence hunters. We became social coordinators. We became tool users without equal. And when we reached the stars and discovered things like void reavers, she held up her phase blades. We became hunters of things that everyone else ran from. Graltok, still recovering from the Reavers' attack but alive thanks to Orla's swift action, looked at her with newfound respect mixed with fear. You saved my life." "I saved everyone's life," Orla corrected. "It's literally my job. I'm an agent of the Human Interdiction Corps, embedded here to study Void Reaver behavior and protect the Academy from extra-dimensional threats." She glanced at Professor Zelnoth. "Though I suppose my cover is somewhat compromised now." "Somewhat," Daniel muttered, unable to suppress a grin despite the situation. The professor's energy form shifted colors, indicating deep thought. "The Corps will need to be notified. However, given that you just saved 300 lives, I suspect they'll be understanding about the circumstances." Over the following weeks, everything changed for Orla. Her secret was out, and she could no longer maintain her careful anonymity. Students who had once ignored her now watched her with awe and fear. Some approached with questions about hunting techniques, about human combat doctrine, about how a species so apparently fragile had produced some of the galaxy's most effective soldiers. Orla answered their questions with the same quiet patience she'd shown in class, explaining that human weakness was actually adaptability, that lack of natural weapons had driven humans to create artificial ones that surpassed anything evolution could provide. Daniel watched his fellow human navigate her newfound notoriety with a mixture of pride and amusement. One evening, he found her in the observation deck, staring out at the dimensional rifts that swirled beyond the Academy's shields. "You know," he said, sitting beside her, "you could have revealed yourself dramatically at any time. Why wait until there was an actual attack?" Orla was quiet for a long moment. "Because I wanted them to understand the truth, not just that humans can fight, but why we fight. We don't hunt void reavers because we're bloodthirsty or because we enjoy killing. We hunt them because if we don't, they'll hunt everyone else. Someone has to stand between the galaxy and the things that lurk in the dark between dimensions." She glanced at Daniel. "That's what humans do best. We're the quiet ones who sit in corners, who seem harmless and weak, right up until the moment something threatens the people we've decided to protect. Then we become the scariest thing in the room." Daniel nodded slowly. "The merciless hunter." "Not merciless," Orla corrected softly. "We show mercy to those who deserve it, but to the things that prey on the innocent." Her eyes hardened. "To them, we show exactly what happens when you underestimate the weak species from Sol 3. Somewhere in the dimensional void, a Void Reaver pack leader received fragmentary reports of the encounter at the Academy. The pack leader processed this information through its alien consciousness and made a decision that would ripple through Reaver territories across 17 sectors. Avoid the human hunters. They were too dangerous, too persistent, too skilled at killing things that shouldn't be able to be killed. The galaxy was learning what Earth's predators had learned millions of years ago. The quiet ones were often the most dangerous, and the humans, those strange, seemingly fragile bipeds, were the quietest and therefore the deadliest of all. In her dorm room, Orla returned to her calculations, her phase blades carefully stowed away, once again just a quiet girl studying quantum mechanics. But now, everyone who passed her door did so with respect, with admiration, and with the knowledge that humanity had earned its place among the stars not despite its weaknesses, but because those weaknesses had forged them into something extraordinary. The most merciless hunters in the galaxy wore unassuming faces and sat in quiet corners, waiting patiently for the moment they were needed. And when that moment came, heaven help anything that stood in their way.